Eddie Hearn, interesting press conference. So were you expecting that?
No, I expected Dave to go on the attack for the whole team. I got an earful. Poor old Dave Caldwell. It was called a Penfold chump. Thought that was a bit harsh, but it was good. You know, it's what promotion's all about. Get everybody talking, get everyone excited, and we have a huge fight on March the 4th at the O2 Arena.
They don't seem to like each other much. Obviously, that was the point of this fight, but in that press conference, it really kind of manifested into quite a long argument.
Yeah, and actually, sort of after about 15 minutes, I was thinking, okay, we'll wrap this up. They could talk all day, couldn't they? And the thing is they both know they're boxing, so they're talking about fights that happened 10 years ago and what happened in the 6th round and stuff like that. So the one thing with David is David's a real control freak. You know, leading up to this fight, before the deal was done, you know, he was trying to call Tony Bellew. He was calling Tony Bellew, getting people to call him, saying, don't worry about Eddie Hearn. We can do this deal on our own. And that's because he's a control freak. You know, the reason my name's on the poster is because I'm the licensed promoter. So it has to be. But he hates the fact that I'm the one giving him the payday he so desperately needs. He hoarded himself out across all these different channels and he come back to where the money was. That was all. And he hates the fact that he has to work with me to get it because he likes to own everything. You know, haymaker promotions, like it used to be back in the day, choosing everything. Now, you can't get that with us. He's got a real fight on his hands. He needs to not worry about me. He needs to worry about Tony Bellew, who is bang up for this. Let me tell you, David Haye has not been in a fight for a long, long time. Can't wait.
You enjoyed it, the Frampton Quigg build-up, when that got turned on you a little bit and you were getting dug out at every presser as well. You seemed to...
Yeah, I love it. That's what it's about. You don't want to go to a press conference, do you, and sort of sit there and say, how was your camp? Yeah, I've had a great camp. Can't wait now for the fight. I want people to attack me, Tony, Dave, vice versa. You know, the only thing I was gutted about is that Shane McGuigan didn't pipe up and say something. So that will come in time. But, you know, you can see that I've obviously got under Hayes' skin, which is great already. And this is what a big fight gets and a big fight build-up. This is how big numbers are achieved. This is how attention is achieved. And this is going to get plenty of it.
Let me just ask you about the fight as well, obviously. Obviously Tony is coming up to heavyweight and there's no stipulation on weight whatsoever. David Haye, a big puncher, but like you say, he hasn't been in a real fight since maybe you could say the Chisora fight, really. How much of a factor is that?
Well, talking of the weight, firstly, I mean, I would expect Tony to be touching 16 stone at the moment, so I think he'll come down to about 15 stone, something like that, and I think Haye will be 15-10, something like that. I don't think he's going to want to go for size. I think he's going to want to go for sharpness and speed. So, you know, I think all in all, I won't worry about the weight. In terms of the sharpness, in terms of being in a fight, you've got to remember, you know, Tony's had 2 fights already this year, 2 very good performances. So he's sharp, he's razor sharp. And, you know, he's going to have to come up with the tactics to beat a very strong, very hard punching, very sharp David Haye. But someone that hasn't shown the sharpness in the last, what? God no, I mean, you know, the last time he had a real fight was against Vladimir Klitschko. So that was a long time ago. And, you know, I'm excited to see what Haye's got left. You know, he talks about knocking Bellew out, then coming after Joshua and ending Matchroom and bring it on. He's got to get past him first. The only thing I'd worry about if I was David Haye was Tony Bellew, because he ain't going to be a pushover in this fight. No way.
Was one strange thing he said, that Tony Bellew's not an elite fighter, even though he's a WBC cruiserweight champion, beat a good champion in Makubu to do so. Do you think that might suggest that he's overlooking Tony?
Well, they talk about the WBA and the WBO. The fact is that, you know, you don't play at the game of promoting and manoeuvring in the boxing business. You have to live it. And David plays it. So everything that he was trying to do, I knew what he was trying to do, and I knew he was hitting dead ends left, right and centre. But he didn't know that. He was wasting his time with certain things. You know, Shannon Briggs wanted to fight him. Come on. He said Shannon Briggs didn't want to fight him. He said Lucas Brown didn't want to fight him. Rubbish. The fact is, the biggest payday for him was Tony Bellew. And that's why he's taking this fight, because he's getting the payday that he needs. So don't be fooled by that, I want to win a world title, I want to do this. I don't, he doesn't. He wants the money. David Haye has always been about the money. Money first, achievement second. No problem with that. It's a man after my own heart, no, I'm joking. But, so that's why he's here. This isn't moving him in a position to challenge for a world title or anything like this. This is to get the biggest payday that is out there for him, other than Anthony Joshua.
With that in mind, just a final one on Anthony Joshua. He says that's the kind of who he really wants at the end of it all, and obviously when you're talking about money, that is the biggest money fight for David Haye. Would you be concerned about that fight at all for Joshua? Should he come through and beat Tony Bellew?
We've got Molina, we've got Klitschko.
You've got plans for Joshua, is what I mean.
After that, we're good to go. I mean, Haye is a great fight. I think Joshua beats him. Of course, it's a dangerous fight. It does record pay-per-view numbers. I'll even let David Haye come on board and let me work for him again if he asks nicely. So, but I think Joshua Haye is a obvious match. What about Bellew against Joshua? What about if Tony Bellew knocks out David Haye? What happens then?
What does happen then?
He'll probably want to fight Joshua. I mean, he's going to be 15 stone. There's been smaller heavyweights, and the weight difference between the two is not. Joshua's a different kettle of fish. Joshua's a giant. David Haye is not a giant. So these two stand next to each other. There's nothing in it. One's a former cruiserweight, one's a current cruiserweight. But yeah, of course, the Haye Joshua fight is one that's a big fight down the line. But I don't think it's going to get there because I believe Tony Bellew's going to knock him out. And everything I saw today, which was a rattled man who's lost control, is great news for Tony Bellew.
Just one final one. What's the situation with the belt? But you said you'd have to apply to WBC.
Applied for a special event permit with WBC. The ruling will come at the convention, which is in about 10 days' time. We'd like to hold on to the belt and then return to cruiserweight after. They'll decide whether we can do that or whether we have to let two guys fight for it and then we fight the winner after, etc. So,
have you had any correspondence with them? What's your feeling on that? Do you think they'll let it go?
I think we'll get it. I mean, I don't see why not. We know we've got a mandatory, but we can take the fight in March and then fight the mandatory in May or whatever. So, I think I think the WBC will be okay with that. And he's already probably the biggest profile name at cruiserweight. But after this fight, his profile is going to go through another level. So I would think the WBC would want him to be their champion.
Will Bradis need some money for that?
I've already given him some money for the last one. No, we'll see. I'm working with Bradis and his team as well. We don't want to hold anyone up. But if it's not, if it's going to be May and it was going to be March or April, we don't see the big deal.